My husband had been buried for less than 2 hours when my mother-in-law leaned close and whispered, "That house belongs to my family now." I was still holding the folded flag. At Arlington, the wind moved through the trees and across the rows of white stones, while soldiers in dress blues stood completely still. My husband, Colonel Daniel Mercer, had been buried with more honor than most people ever receive. When a young soldier placed the flag into my hands, his voice shook as he said, "On behalf of a grateful nation," and I could only nod. Daniel would have hated any drama. He cleaned his coffee mug before bed, polished his shoes even after retirement, and believed you could judge a person by how they treated waiters and janitors. So when Vivian Mercer stepped beside me near the funeral car, pearls shining against her dark coat, I didn't react. She looked at the flag as if it was just another document. "We need to be practical," she whispered. I thought she meant flowers, bills, or relatives. Then she leaned closer and said, "That house belongs to my family now, so does the company." I stared at the loose thread on her sleeve. Behind her, Daniel's friend was quietly talking to someone from the church. My sister was putting lilies into a trunk. No one heard Vivian's words except me. I could have yelled. Instead, I held the flag tighter and said, "Not today." She smiled as if she had already won. That evening, the house felt far too big. Daniel's reading glasses rested beside his recliner. His half-finished crossword lay on the kitchen table next to a cold cup of coffee I couldn't bring myself to throw away. At 7, my attorney, Grant Ellis, arrived carrying a folder. "Vivian has already contacted probate counsel," he said. I gave a tired laugh. Of course she had. Grant opened the folder. "You can fight her. Nothing is easy, but you are not powerless." I looked at Daniel's chair, then I said, "Let her have it." He blinked. "You want to give up everything?" I shook my head. "I want her to believe she's winning." Grant looked at me quietly for a long moment, then slowly closed the folder. After he left, I cried in Daniel's closet with one of his old field jackets pressed against my face. I missed him. The pain felt real. A week later, I found a sealed envelope hidden inside a green binder in Daniel's workshop. My name was written on it in his neat handwriting. I almost opened it immediately, but something made me stop. The next morning, I called Grant. By then, the gossip had spread across Fairfax. Vivian was telling anyone willing to listen that I was doing the right thing. Even strangers at the grocery store looked at me with pity. Then Grant drove me to Mercer Precision, the company Daniel and I had built together. We repaired hydraulic systems for fire departments, rescue crews, and utility teams. Inside, the smell of oil and coffee surrounded me like an old memory. Men and women who had worked there for many years looked up from their stations with worried faces. "Are our jobs safe?" one asked. "I don't know yet," I replied. That night I opened Daniel's letter. It wasn't long. He warned me to check the blue estate binder, not the green one. He wrote that he had prepared for every possibility because an officer never leaves his people unprotected. In the blue binder, under tax records and trust papers, I found the truth. The company and the house had been placed into the Mercer Legacy Trust years earlier. Daniel had named me, our operations manager Eli, and a Veterans Foundation as trustees. Vivian owned neither. The hearing took place on a cold Tuesday morning. Vivian arrived wearing cream silk and full of confidence. Her lawyer spoke about legacy and bloodline. Then Grant stood and asked the judge to confirm the trust documents. Within minutes, everything in the room changed. The assets Vivian had been fighting for were not probate property at all. The company had to remain in Virginia, continue its veteran hiring program, and keep most of its employees. Vivian stared as though the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. Then the judge read Daniel's private letter to her. It gave her a small cash gift and gently explained that love was not the same as ownership. By the end, her claim was rejected. Outside, the employees waited on the courthouse steps. Eli laughed when I told him he was a trustee. Daniel really trusted me. "He trusted the people who stayed," I said. The company continued to grow. The apprenticeship programs expanded. In spring, Vivian mailed me a short apology, and I placed it inside Daniel's binder without replying. On Memorial Day, I brought white roses to Arlington and stood at Daniel's grave while the leaves moved around my feet. "I understand now," I whispered. "You were protecting people." For the first time since the funeral, I felt peace instead of anger. Daniel's legacy was not the house, the company, or even the trust. It was the lives he had protected before he left them behind.